Why, hello there, old sports. Now, if you are a regular to my channel, you probably realize that this is not the video I said I was going to make. But, that video's been having some complications, so I'm just gonna make this video for now as like a small break, and just please let me have this. Anyways, moving on. Many people have offered up ideas on how Deltarune might or might not end, but most, if not all of them, are guided by one idea. When asked how many endings Deltarune would have, Toby Fox has simply answered, 1. However, for a variety of reasons, it's a little difficult to take this answer at face value. When this is stated on the Steam page, there's a question mark, almost implying that almost even the description is confused about this idea, or that might just not be true. It's a little hard to tell what Toby meant by putting that there. Again, as I just said, some people have said, oh, it's because Toby is expecting people to come here from Undertale, so they'll be confused why there's only one ending instead of the 93 there were in Undertale. Now, I do think there will be one ending to Deltarune in at least one way of looking at it. I don't think Toby would outright lie to us. Instead, I feel like he would put a bunch of asterisks on that one. Undertale is a game where nobody has to die, except if you want Asgore to live, you're gonna have to jump through a lot of hoops to get there. I feel like one thing that adds to this idea of having a technicality on the one ending is another place where Toby talked about there being one ending. On the official Deltarune help page, which I'm sure we've all read, there's a question under the one that says there's only going to be one ending that states, then doesn't that mean nothing I do matters? And then the answer to that question says, there's something more important than reaching the end. So many people, including myself, have come to the conclusion that the ultimate outcome of the story will remain the same, but minor details, in the grand scheme of things, are up to change. But before I get into that, I'd like to go over the idea that there really is nothing we can do that matters, because lots of people will point to the other voice in the intro saying that no one can choose who they are in this world, and Susie talking about how nothing we do matters, or our choices don't matter a couple times. And they'll point to that and they'll say, well, nothing we do matters, these are characters who are explicitly stating it. But something that it seems a concerning amount of people have forgotten or are just ignoring to suit their own ends. That thing is that Flowey at the beginning of Undertale occupies an antagonistic force, spouts off a worldview, and then disappears. You basically spend the rest of the game battling with him in the idea of you either agreeing or disagreeing on if that is the true way the world works, kill or be killed. Keep in mind that the second voice in the Goner sequence is implied to be the one that ripped us away from our vessel, as Gaster seems to be a lot more positive towards us. Adding on, at that point in the story when Susie says those things, she's acting as an antagonist. She's not part of the team yet. She hasn't joined the party for real. Considering at the beginning of Chapter 1, Ralsei explains that he believes that our choices can matter, or that we can achieve a happier ending if we treat people with kindness, I feel like even though his worldview kind of gets a little rocked along the way to Chapter 4 where we are right now, I still feel like that idea still rings true. Because Ralsei at the end of Chapter 4 even is saying, I want to refuse the idea that the prophecy may come true up until it happened. Like, he's saying that I'm going to deny it's real until I see it with my own two eyes. So I feel like anyone who is legitimately and unironically saying that none of our choices will matter at all or have any impact on anything or affect anything at all are either being willfully ignorant or just don't understand reading, like they just can't read very well. Then again, this is the Undertale community. I don't know what I'm expecting from people. So, with that being said, what do I, a random internet person, think this means in terms of Deltarune? Well, before I do share my opinion on that, I would just like to preface this one last time and say, hey, anything I say here is just a theory. Please do not take it too seriously or too literally. Please do not get too attached to any of these ideas because they could be wrong at any moment, etc., etc. Okay, moving on. My belief is that the ending of Deltarune is plainly laid out in one of the prophecy panels. The angel banished will finally meet with its desire. On top of that, I believe that the context in which the angel leaves and the world they leave behind are the things that we can change. Now, I'm a believer in the idea that either the player is the angel or the soul the player controls is the angel. So my belief is that in the narrative of Deltarune, eventually us as the player will not get to witness the world anymore, or at least to a point where we don't get to see it continue after a certain point, aka the end of the game, and that will be our removal from the world and our banishment from it, in which our desire basically just means any of the details around the ending we're aiming to achieve. Because while we might always get banished, we will leave behind a very different world depending on which route we're going down. The game will always end the same way, but the context around it could be drastically different depending on what you chose. I've seen some people say that the weird route won't end up having any impact on the story, but I just really don't believe that. I feel like in Chapter 2 we planted a seed, and then in Chapter 4 we kind of watered that little plant we're starting to grow, and I think things are already starting to break, and by that I mean like when you're talking to Susie after going to the, like on your way to the church, there's that empty text box choice thing, and I think that's a sign that the game is starting to break away from what we're supposed to be doing. I think another important thing to keep in mind is that the prophecy doesn't exactly lay out everything that will happen after a certain point. The Lord of Screens will always be cleaved red by blade, but it doesn't say anything about how we can fix him. And we did that. We saved Tenna's life at the end of Chapter 4 if we've recruited enough of his henchmen, employees, the Darkners in the Dark World. So if we can make a difference even that big on the route where we're still following the rules, I really do wonder what could happen on a path where we're actively breaking away from the set out route. As the bead toy in the hospital symbolizes, we are all kind of set on a certain path, and to remove ourselves from that path requires us to break some things, i.e. Birdly. I know at the beginning of this video I pointed out that I didn't think Toby Fox would outright lie to us. However, there is something I would like to add on to that. Toby is no stranger to speaking through or as his characters, or speaking within the themes of the work he's trying to make. When I said I didn't believe that Toby would lie to us, I guess I meant that in more of a I don't think Toby would outright try to troll us, or he would lie to us just to lie to us. If he was lying to us, I believe it was because he is trying to speak in parallel to the themes he's trying to convey. Maybe Toby is slyly asking us to prove him wrong. He may say there is only one ending, but as this is a game about fate and the nature of having choices, maybe it's our job as the audience and the players to prove him right or wrong. Will we lie down and accept fate? Or like Gerson and Susie, will we fight against it till the bitter end? That's your choice to make. Hello, this is Editing Puppet Wraith. I would just like to say thank you for all the recent support. It means a lot to me. I don't feel very well. I hope that's not too apparent in my voice. If it is, I'm very sorry. The Sans video I did has just recently hit 90,000 views, and I'm extremely grateful for that. The only video I've ever had hit 100,000, or obviously it's not 100,000 yet. The only video I've ever had hit 100,000 views was on my old channel where I made a 6-second shitpost that kind of went viral, but I don't know if 100,000 views is viral. I don't want to sound braggy. Anyways, the Undertale video is kind of having some problems. I'm not sure exactly how I want to structure it. There's this video I just watched which was like an analysis of SCP Containment Breach, and now I kind of want to structure the video like that, but I'm worried I'm not like talking too much, or I'm worried I'll talk too little about like the actual meat of the game instead of just like, I don't want to just regurgitate a synopsis of it, but I don't know. I also want to get the project done before September 15th for the 10th anniversary, so I don't want to mess up in that way. I'm just starting to get kind of burnt out on this, because even if the failures, quote-unquote, are still leading me to the correct direction, it still feels frustrating to feel like after all this time I don't have anything to show yet. But other than that, I'm okay. thank you for watching this video. If you've stuck around this long, thank you for listening to me ramble about my own silly problems, and have a good day.